started sitting up. So whatever you need to be comfortable sitting up, maybe a blanket or a block or something underneath your hips. Yeah, we often lay down, I think, at the start of this class, but maybe we'll leave that to the end. All right, and you can begin your music at any time. Any time will do. You can even like not listen to music if that's your thing, or listen to your own stuff. Tonight's class is inspired by a text message I got at like late night from a friend of mine who was baking bread and listening to this band. So it's just Yo La Tengo music. I was like, oh, perfect. All right, so we're gonna get started seated and just get super duper comfortable. So you can sit on your heels, you can sit cross-legged, anything will do. And just take a couple of moments to kind of adjust where your head is in relationship to your pelvis. Check in where your heart is in between those two places. And if you want to rest your hands on your knees, that's one thing, or you could even take your fingertips down to the floor, maybe a couple of blocks. Just feel that firm ground underneath you. Good, and take notice of your head and your neck and your shoulders. And if things are feeling kind of tense there, maybe take like a good, I don't know, like 30 seconds or so to roll the head and neck around. Okay, just gently. And if your jaw feels a little funky, stick your tongue out and just kind of release anything you have going on there. Right, and then do your very best to find some stillness here. And then just notice the movement that you're feeling in your body, even in this state of stillness. And the way your breath inflates your lungs, moves your ribs. Your heart beating. And a few moments to just check in with yourself. Good. Another few breaths here to set some kind of course for your practice. You can, use your mantra. You can set an intention. You can just think about how you want things to be for yourself. And really focusing in on giving words to what you need this evening. Good, and then if your hands are on your knees or they're down on the floor, let's take them up to the heart. And we're just gonna kind of take our fingertips, and this might sound a little like, ugh, but we're gonna look for those spaces in between our ribs on either side of the breastbone. So those intercostal spaces. And don't press in super hard, but maybe just like a little bit of pressure there. Okay, notice how that feels. And then you might kind of like rake your fingers from the center out a few times. And then just take that right hand up onto the left shoulder, that left muscle that really gets grumpy sometimes. And press in and just kind of knead that muscle for a moment or two. You can let that left hand drop down if that makes sense to you. Good. Drop your right ear over to your right shoulder and just kind of walk your fingers up and down that muscle once or twice. Right, and then go ahead and release that right hand down and take your left ear over to your left shoulder and same thing, just right hand comes up, or sorry, left hand comes up to your right trap and the side of your neck. Good, and any kind of intuitive head movement here. You might like gently turn the head, walk those fingers up and down, or keep on kneading that muscle, just whatever feels best. Good, and then bring yourself back through to the center, and we're gonna reach back and interlace the fingers behind the back. Good, and just lift the heart up. Yeah, take a look up here, point your chin high. Good, and then we'll unlace the fingers, hands to knees, round the back, and just kind of wiggle the shoulders a tiny little bit, making some space in the middle of the spine. Good, and then some seated cat-cows, or some variation thereof. Really thinking about focusing most of the movement down into the pelvis. You're really tilting it forward, tilting it back. Good, yeah, you might incorporate a little self-massage here. As you inhale, you slide your fingers up the thighs. As you exhale, you slide your fingers down towards your knees and then grasp. Good. Yeah, just a couple more breaths. All right, and then bring yourself back through to the center. And we're gonna take the left hand down to the floor and just reach that right arm up nice and high. Good, and really plug your right sitting bone into the floor. Your right hand's gonna come to the left side of your head. And just reach that right elbow up and over. Good, and lift the left side of the rib cage too. Alrighty, and then go ahead and just unwind yourself into a twist. Right hand comes to the left knee. You can take a look behind you, that's great, but don't force anything. Just kind of an easygoing, comfortable twist. Good, a big inhale brings you back through to the center. And how about a little switch of the legs? And before taking that side bend, let's think about really getting situated again here for some amount of comfort. Maybe even like using blankets or blocks under the knee. Good, and then the right hand's gonna come down and reach that left arm up nice and high. Yeah, left or right hand, sorry, left hand comes to the right side of the head. Point that left elbow up and really press down into the right hand, straight through that arm. Good, and then just kind of unwind yourself into your twist. Right hand behind you, left hand to the right knee. Good, and then bring yourself back through to the center. And we're just gonna fold in a little bit here, just for a few moments. If you have a couple of blocks, it might be nice to have them in front of you. Rest your forearms on your blocks. You don't need them though. Good, and just a couple of moments again to feel those sitting bones pressing down. Good, notice the hip that's talking the most. Notice your ankle. Good, and then start to lift yourself up, and we'll just switch the legs out here. So getting into both hips. As you fold forward, yeah, sometimes it's helpful to take notice which side is the stronger side, and which side is a little looser. And taking a couple deep breaths to feel the weight of the pelvis. Good, one more inhale. And breathe out. All right, and then let's come on up and find maybe like a little, well, there are a few options. You can drop the knees side to side. You could take a reverse tabletop maybe, head dropping back. If you are feeling like super energetic and achievement oriented today, maybe like a reverse plank, legs long if you like. Good. Eventually, we're going to make our way onto hands and knees. So just getting there at your own pace. Good. And maybe a blanket under the knees so that everybody's happy, everything's comfortable. Good. And here on hands and knees, let's bring the knees out kind of wide and bring the big toes to touch. And we're just going to shift the hips back towards the heels. Reach out long through those hands, so kind of like a wide knee child's pose. But then we're gonna kind of like swing ourselves forward, up and over. Knees might remain wide, toes might point out into this kind of wide-legged back bend. Good. Okay, if that feels good in your body, you might do a few more of those. Or maybe you want to take some cats and cows. Think about what your collarbones are doing. Good. Notice your knees and make sure they're on board with this whole thing. Good. Maybe like two more. Good. And then the next time you find yourself coming back into a child's pose, snuggle the knees in a little bit closer if that works in your body. And we're going to move into a rabbit pose. So setting your head down on the floor. Just roll up so your hips are above your knees. Good. You might interlace your fingers and reach your knuckles high. Maybe your hands are on the floor. Good, and think about really staying on the top of your head and lifting the shoulders up. Good, and then let's come on out of this. Stand up on the knees, the left hand comes to the lower back, the right hand comes to the back of the head as that right elbow lifts up for like a half camel. Good, and then we're gonna come back to sit on the heels and take a little twist, the right hand to that left knee, good, left hand behind you. Good, come on, back up. And let's take the other side here. The left hand comes to the back of the head, right hand to the low back. Good, and as you come to sit back down this time, tuck your toes underneath and take a toe squat kind of twist. Right hand comes back. Good. Coming back through to the center. Let's find hands and knees. Tuck your toes underneath. Lift the knees a little bit. And just kind of take these little, like, I don't know, like little animal shifts here. Moving forward and backward. Maybe a little bit of side to side. Eventually ending up in downward facing dog. Good, and take your time in your downward dog. Good, pay special attention to your head. Let it drop way down. Good, notice the fingers, spread them out. As you inhale, take a look in between your hands, and then slowly bring yourself all the way up to the top of the mat, little step forward at a time. Good, breathe in, come up halfway. And then exhale and fold yourself forward and grab your elbows. Good, let yourself swing a little bit side to side. And feel your feet on the floor. Good, and if you want to place your hands at the base of the skull for a moment, that might be nice. Or even take your fingers and massage the back of your neck with your head hanging heavy. Yeah, and just notice what you feel back there. What's going on? Nice. Okay, and then just as slow as you can go, roll yourself all the way up to standing. You might exaggerate that curl, or maybe you're more like halfway lifting and coming up with a straight spine. But we'll reach those arms up, take a look up, and then exhale and take the hands together at the heart. Good, standing here for a moment. And take notice of how wobbly you feel today, or maybe how steady you feel. Maybe the wobble that you're feeling turns into a little bit of movement, a little bit of swaying. But just holding yourself upright on your feet. Another couple breaths. Oh man, I think I'm gonna throw in a chair here. So bring yourself down into a nice, uncomfortable seat. Perfect. Yeah, your hands can be wherever you want them to be so that this pose feels sustainable. Nice. Yeah, sit way back into the heels for a breath. And then rock forward towards your toes, or maybe up onto your toes for a breath. And then go ahead and set your feet down, fold forward, interlace the fingers behind your back, press the knuckles up. And turn your head side to side slowly and gently. Yeah. Good. Release those arms down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, step back, high plank pose. Good, and let's drop the heels from side to side, keeping both of your hands on the floor, really focusing on the way the feet feel as they're moving. The sides of your belly, kind of preparing ourselves for side plank here. Good, and notice what your head and neck are doing. If it's really severe, let it go just a little bit. Good, and then drop the knees down and shift back, child's pose. Good, and a child's pose of your choice. Maybe the knees are wide, they could be close. Your arms might wrap around you or extend long, or you could also throw in a rabbit pose if you're feeling it. Another upside down opportunity. Good, 2 more breaths here. Perfect, and then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog. And in downward facing dog, spend a little bit of time up on your toes, dropping your heels from side to side while keeping your hips lifted. And really focusing in now on what your upper body is doing. The way your shoulders and bones and muscles of your arms support you. And notice the sides of the rib cage. Good, and then breathe in and look in between those hands. Exhale to walk your feet on up to the top of the mat, maybe a little hop. Inhale, halfway lift when you get there. Exhale, forward fold, and really just let it go. Maybe you're like wildly wiggling those arms around like little pieces of spaghetti, or maybe you are, maybe you're swaying side to side like in kind of a big arc, or even adding in a little bit of like twisting motion. Good. Maybe you're tugging the hair at the top of your head. Taking a wild lion's breath, sticking that tongue way out. Good. But then eventually we'll all roll ourselves up to standing and take a little bit of a look up here. A little bit of a back bend. And then exhale and take your hands to your heart and balance your heart in between your front and back body. Yeah, let the shoulders be heavy. Feel your feet on the floor. Good, a big breath in, reach those arms up, look up. Exhale, dive forward over two long legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms and step it on back into your high plank. And you can choose to rock the heels side to side again in your plank if you like that. If you want to go into a side plank with your knee down or with the knee up, you could do that as well. And you can just choose your favorite side. And if you're in your side plank, notice the way that side of the body lifts away from the floor. Nice. Awesome. Everybody's so strong. Good. Come back through to the center and go through your flow. Maybe you're taking a chaturanga or touching your knees down. Maybe you're shifting to down dog or taking child. And a few moments to check back in with yourself and remind yourself of what you need out of your practice. Just kind of water that seed again. Good. Good. Inhale, look in between the hands. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top of the mat. Good. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Good. Inhale, and as you roll up, slide your hands up the fronts of your legs, all the way up the front of your body, all the way up. Reach them high. Take a look up. Exhale, hands together at your heart. Sit down in your chair pose from here. You might take your feet wide or close. Think about rocking way back into the heels, almost like uncomfortably so. Notice your muscles working. And then rock forward towards your toes or onto your toes. Notice what's changed. Good, and then swim those arms back behind you, interlace your fingers, forward fold, set your heels down, press your knuckles high. Good. Release the arms, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms down, step it on back to your high plank. And yeah, your choice. You can rock heels side to side, take your side plank. You can hang here in the middle. Nice. Good. Bring yourself back through to the center and find your flow through. So whatever you need, and whatever your joints are into, cats and cows are good. Good. A deep breath in and a big breath out. Nice. Right, as you inhale, look in between the hands. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top of the mat. And then inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Good. Slide the hands up the fronts of the legs. Come all the way up, hands slide up the body. Arms reach nice and high. Good. And then let's sweep that right arm underneath the left, either hugging around yourself or eagle wrapping those arms. And just relax, just for a second. Come up onto your toes. Hey, notice the shake, notice the wobble. And then sit down into a chair pose here. Keep your arms about the same. As you sit down into your chair pose, think about lifting those elbows away from the knees at first. And then let yourself kind of fold in. Head drops down towards those forearms. Good. Unwind the arms. We're going to keep on sitting in the chair pose for a second. Reach the hands behind you, interlace the fingers, and fold yourself forward. Yeah, lengthen those legs. And release the arms down, let them wiggle around. Really move the scapula, your shoulder blades. And maybe you're taking some circles. Yeah, maybe you're gently rocking the head around. But then inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms and step on back to high plank pose. And a couple of options here, your plank. So I'm gonna do option one, which is a side plank with that top leg lifted. Okay, the bottom knee down, the top leg parallel to the ground. And if you're in a side plank with that bottom knee up, you might take a tree pose, bending that top knee and placing that foot on the bottom leg. Yeah, nice. And eventually you'll come on out of whatever you're doing, bring yourself back through to the center and move through your flow. Good, and eventually you'll make your way back into downward dog. Good, take a big breath in. And a nice breath out. Right, as you inhale, look in between the hands. Exhale, step, walk, or hop on up to the top. Breathe in, lift halfway. Exhale, forward fold. And think about this being just what you need. Maybe it's both of your knees deeply bent, your belly resting on your thighs, or perhaps you want to reach down for your big toes and kind of draw those elbows wide and really feel into the backs of your legs. Good. And then slowly slide the hands up the front of the body. Yep, all the way up the legs, the belly, the chest. Reach those arms high. Good, and then we're gonna sweep that left arm underneath the right this time, hugging around or eagle wrapping. And stand up on the balls of your feet here. Yeah, lift those heels. And see if you can focus your attention on the meeting of your arms. Good, and then sit down in your chair pose. I was playing around with this before and I don't know, chair pose actually felt pretty good after the standing on the toes. Good, so a big breath in and out. Good, lift those elbows up here, take a look up. And then kind of fold in on yourself, rounding the back. The head drops down towards the forearms again. Good, swim those arms back around you, interlace the fingers and fold yourself forward. Good, and then your choice, you can stay in this stretch here for a moment or two, or you can drop those arms down and let them wiggle. Good, but eventually we'll inhale and lift up halfway. And exhale to step back into high plank. Good, and then your side plank fun over on the other side. So maybe it's a tree variation or like a half moon situation. Yeah, nice. All right, just picking and choosing and noticing your balance and your strength. Yeah, and your body will kind of tell you what to do next. Maybe it's bringing yourself through the full chaturanga. Maybe it's taking yourself to child's or some resting position, but moving through your flow. We'll spend about 5 breaths or so in a downward facing dog or a child's pose. So let your shoulders and wrists kind of make that decision. Let your energy level make that decision. Nice. Yeah, awesome. And listen for these next few breaths. Nice. One more deep breath here. If you're in child's, bring yourself back into your downward dog or onto hands and knees, and we'll extend that right leg up and back behind. Just lift it up kind of high. And we're gonna take a little rocking back and forth, bringing the knee into the nose. All right, you might do it once or twice. Maybe you're moving really slow, maybe you're moving fast. We're just warming the body up a little bit. And eventually, when you feel like you are pretty good and warm, step that right foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. And we're gonna drop that left knee down. And let's wiggle the right foot over to the right and take a dragon or a lizard pose. So your hands can stay down to the inside of the right foot. Or you might lower down onto forearms if your hips are feeling kind of like, if they just generally are flexible and open, you know. Good, and notice what your head is doing, and you might even give it like a little rock from side to side here. I feel like this is the season where I'm like always clenching my shoulders and jaw because I'm just cold. So I'm doing a little bit of that maybe. Good, and then let's shift the hips back into a runner stretch. You might like heel toe that right foot over a little bit so that it's more in line with your hip socket. Good, and deeply flex that right foot. Good, another breath or two. Great, and then you're gonna just kind of spin on that left knee. Keep your right toes off to the side. Good, hands can come to the hips as you tip over to the right, or you might slide your right hand down the right shin and maybe even reach that left arm up. Maybe even take your left hand to the right side of your head. Good, your gate pose. Good, a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And then bring yourself back up and through here. We're gonna spin back on that left knee. Fold yourself over that right long leg. And let your head just drop down and shake it out a little bit. Nice, and then from here, we'll re-bend that right knee. Ooh, my mat's going everywhere. And we're just gonna kind of press off of that left foot and lift up into a standing leg lift or standing split. That left leg comes high. Yeah, you might drop the head down here. Maybe you're looking down at the floor under your foot. Right, and then we'll step that left foot to the outside of the mat. The right foot will hop over a little bit and just find a squat. And maybe this squat has you moving a little bit from side to side, or maybe you're holding still, or even folding forward here. Good, a few more breaths. Okay, go ahead and bring yourself into a standing forward fold. And slowly grazing the front of the body, lift all the way up to standing, reach those arms nice and high. Exhale, hands together at the heart. Good, a deep breath in. And a big breath out. Good, inhale, reach those arms up and overhead. Exhale, let's sit down into chair pose. And as you find your chair pose, a little twist to the right. So you can take that left hand in front of you, right hand to the hip, or even behind you. Good, and maybe you even want to hook that left elbow to the outside of the right knee. Take your prayer twist. Good, slowly fold yourself forward over two long legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms and step it on back into high plank pose. Good, and you might take a side plank over to the right here. Good, perhaps you're taking a tree leg again, or a half moon. Good, if you're taking a side plank with a tree leg, you might consider shifting to plank and keeping that tree leg. Holding yourself here. Maybe you're flowing through the tree leg. Maybe it's time for some tea. Okay, just making your way back into either your child's pose or your downward dog to remain for 5 breaths or so. Good. As you make it back into your downward facing dog, extend that left leg up and back behind you. And then just at your own pace, could be super leisurely or a little quicker. Bring your knee to your nose. Find your high plank. And think about really using the muscles on the front plane of your body and kind of feeling them lifting and supporting this whole structure. Good. Once your wrists and your shoulders have had it, you can just step that left foot forward and drop the right knee down. And we're gonna find our little lizard pose here. So hands to the inside of the left foot. Yep. Yeah, you can stay up or you can lower yourself down towards the floor. Nice, hanging out in this lizard. And checking in again with the way that your jaw feels and your head and neck, and just doing a little bit of gentle movement, if that makes sense. And notice how things feel at the front of the right hip. And then go ahead and shift yourself back, kind of walking that left foot a little closer to the center, taking your runner stretch.
No, that means in the kitchen.
Good. Hanging out in the runner stretch for just a bit. Good. And then we're going to take our time to kind of spin into our gate pose. So spinning on that right knee, let's keep that left leg extended long. The toes pointing away from you, and hands can come to the hips, or maybe that left hand reaches down the left shin. Right arm might reach up, or even support the head and neck. Good, and then slowly coming on out of this and spinning back on that right knee, trying to keep your balance, folding over that left leg again. Let your head drop down if that feels good. Good, and then start to rebend that left knee. And we're gonna spring off of the right foot and up into your standing split or your standing leg lift. Good, feel the chest dropping towards the left thigh. Good, head might drop way down, or it could stay lifted for balance. Good, and then set that right foot down wide on the mat, step the left foot out too, and come into your squat again. And just like so many other poses, there are just endless possibilities for what you could do here in the squat. You might take a little twist, one of your hands on your knee, the other elbow pressing into the inner knee. Maybe an arm lifts up. And if you are a crow pose kind of person, it might be nice bringing your knees up onto the backs of your arms, hands about shoulder distance, and then rocking yourself forward, maybe lifting toes. Nice. Yeah, and then eventually we'll all come into a standing forward fold. Good, sending those hips high. If you were practicing your crow, shake your wrists out a little bit. Give them a good wave. Nice. Alrighty, and then from here, we're going to take it back into high plank. And as you make it to your high plank, there might be a side plank here. Whichever side you didn't do the last time. Good, maybe there's a tree leg or some creative variation. Good, and eventually you'll flow through, maybe doing a tree thing on your way. Maybe all of your limbs connect to the floor. Good. Eventually making your way back into child's pose or downward facing dog. Good. And a few big breaths. Good. As you inhale, extend that right leg up and back behind you. Open up through the hip a little bit. And yeah, some intuitive movement there. It might be circles, or you might kind of like swing that right leg side to side. Yeah, while keeping it nice and long. If you really like the knee to nose situation, you're welcome to. Yeah, but eventually, once your wrists and your shoulders have called it quits, you can step that right foot forward and find your high lunge this time. And in your high lunge, just come up, bringing your hands to your hips. Okay, first thinking about kind of keeping that neutral pelvis. We don't want it tilting forward too much. Good, and then yeah, reach those arms up and overhead, and clasping elbows could be nice. Or just a loose circle. Good, a deep breath in. And then we're going to take the hands together at the heart and find a twist. So maybe this is a twist with your left hand down to the floor and your right hand reaching up. It could be that left elbow to right knee, taking a prayer twist. Yeah. But the whole time, really keeping that left leg engaged. Press back through the heel, lift the knee. Good. And you're just gonna kind of circle your way out of this twist by bringing both of your hands to the floor and walking them around to the left so that you come into a wide angle. And as you come into this wide angle, deeply bend the left knee, keeping that right leg nice and long. Good. Your hands can stay down to the floor. Or you might consider like trying to find some balance here. You can lift the arms, reach them high even. Good, and then very slowly, you're gonna start to walk your hands back towards the back of your mat to frame that foot. And we're gonna find a half moon pose. So lifting your left leg up, I think. Good, and then go ahead and set that foot down. Find a standing forward fold at the back of your mat. Let the head drop down. Good. Bring your feet so that they're a little bit wider, and we're just going to sit down nice and slow into the squat, where we'll stay for just like a breath or two. Think about lifting up though while you're here, not really sinking down. And then press into the feet, lift yourself up, reach those arms nice and high. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms and take it back and through whatever works for you tonight. Making our way back to down dog. Good, a few deep breaths. And then you're gonna take that left leg up and back behind you. Open up through the hip. Maybe take those circles or those leg sweeps or knee to nose if you like that. Yeah, picking your favorite. And eventually, once your wrists and elbows are done, step that left foot forward and bring yourself up into high lunge, taking your hands to your hips. Okay, think about gently pointing the tip of your tailbone down towards the floor. Good, reach those arms nice and high. Arrange them so your joints are happy. Good. And as you exhale, take your hands together at your heart. And we'll take the twist now. So bringing that, the other side, your right elbow, I guess, yes, to the left knee, or maybe setting that right hand down and lifting the left arm up. Yeah, whichever feels better. Notice that right heel, press it back. One more breath. And then yes, bring your hands down, walk them around to the right this time. Find your standing wide angle briefly. And then bend that right knee deeply and come into your, your low half squat, or just do the other side if I got the sides wrong. Good, taking a moment here, maybe to sit up tall. If you balanced before, maybe you want to take your hands down into the ground and walk them forward as you send the hips back. Yeah, what's going to do it for you? Maybe some movement side to side is what you need. Good, yeah, right on. Good, eventually you'll bring your hands down, walk them around to the front of the mat now, frame that foot. And we're just gonna take up our half moon on the other side. So lifting up that left leg. Nice. Think about stacking the left hip on top of the right, but really lifting from the right side of your rib cage. Good, supporting your upper body with those muscles. Good, a deep breath in. And then exhale and step yourself into standing forward fold and just give yourself a wiggle, like any kind of wiggle. Beautiful. Inhale, come all the way up. Reach those arms nice and high. Stand up onto the tips of your toes. Good. Notice the shake and the wobble. And as you exhale, let's just sit down into chair pose with your hands together at your heart. All right, and it's eagle pose time. So first, I think we're going to take that right arm underneath the left and either hug around or eagle wrap. And then wrap that right thigh over the left thigh if you're feeling like adding the legs in here too. Nice. And just notice the squeezing into the center line, this general state of balance. Good. Taking another breath or two if it suits you. And then go ahead and come on out of it. Plant both of your feet down nice and heavy and just give yourself like a full body shake. Move your arms, shake your shoulders. Good. Maybe you're sending your hips side to side, shaking your butt. Good, and then very slowly start to bring yourself back up to standing if you're folding forward. Reach your arms up and overhead, little baby back bend. Exhale, hands come together at the heart and sit down into your chair and just find your eagle over on the other side. Yep, cool. So left arm's underneath and then that left thigh will cross over the right. Perfect. And when you're ready, go ahead, unwind yourself, press both of your feet into the floor, come up, give yourself a little shake. Awesome. And then you're gonna bring yourself all the way down to the floor and onto your back. And you might get there like the most complicated way possible, like lowering down, trying to sit down without your hands, finding a boat, lowering your boat and laying down, or maybe just like sit down and lay down. And that's great too. Good, but when you find the floor, once your back meets the floor, really let the floor hold you just for these next few breaths. This is the season where we, it's just like so dark and so gray, and I think that it's you know, very natural for us to kind of like turn in and curl up and kind of round into ourselves. So it might be nice to take a back bend or two here just to combat all of the forward rounding. If you like bridge pose, the soles of the feet can come to the floor, and then just lift up the hips, lift the spine away, draw those upper arms underneath your shoulders. Good. If you like a boat pose, you're welcome to go there too. Hands near your shoulders, pressing in, lifting everything. If you want a restorative bridge though, remember that that's always a really nice choice. Yeah, good. Good. A couple more breaths. Perfect. If you're in your back bend, roll yourself down. And I'm thinking of some legs up the invisible wall stuff going on here, or a shoulder stand if you have one in your practice and you really want to go there. If you've got your block nearby or a bolster, yeah, go ahead and place it underneath your pelvis so that it supports the weight of your legs with minimal abdominal muscle usage. Let your belly be soft here. Yeah, if your feet are up, roll your ankles around a few times. Spread your toes out really wide. See if you can sense the soles of your feet, the undersides of your toes. Good. If you're shoulder standing and want to take a plow pose, you might drop your toes overhead, and likewise in legs up the invisible wall. Yeah, you can just bring your toes down towards your head and kind of lengthen through the backs of those legs while keeping the pelvis lifted. Good. Paying attention to the lower back and how it feels. Good. And then you'll come on out of this, removing prop from underneath you, and just bring the pelvis to the floor. And you can drop the knees from side to side, keeping your feet connected. As you drop your knees from side to side, you might decide to stay over on one side for a few breaths, and then shift to the other side and hang there for a few breaths. You might keep the side to side movement of your knees going while you press your hands into your lower ribs, that space underneath them, or the lower belly. Good, a little self massage. Good, but then let's find our way into recline bound angle pose, soles of the feet together, knees out wide. If your hips don't particularly like this type of movement, you might take constructive rest again with the soles of the feet on the floor and the knees either pointing up or resting in on each other. Good. Perfect. Couple more breaths. All right. So you can choose to hang here if this feels like just the thing. You might add in a couple of reclined twists here at the end, or a happy baby. We have about 6 minutes remaining in class. So yeah, do the things that feel right to you before setting into something like a final resting pose, maybe Shavasana, legs up the wall. Good. And when you eventually do find that final shape, really let the ground hold you. And allow your body to be heavy, eventually finding some stillness. And just noticing in your body where there's movement, even in this perceived stillness.
You stop for a second.
All right, so I'd like to give you a good long time to move around, to wake yourself up, just enough, but not too much.
Uh-oh.
All right, and eventually, if you're feeling like sitting up, you can move to a seated position. I think we might sit just for a moment in some in meditative seat. So taking your hands onto your knees or maybe down onto the ground. And then balancing your head above your pelvis and your heart somewhere in the middle of things. And then notice the way the breath fills up your body and kind of lifts you on the inhale. and how things change when you exhale. And just a few more deep breaths. Good, and then go ahead and take your hands onto your heart, and we'll just bring them one on top of the other and give ourselves like a little massage here. It's a little circle around the heart. Maybe gently pressing into the muscles, gently warming this area. Good, and then breathe in, reach your arms out nice and wide. Exhale, hands together at the heart, dropping your head down to honor your practice and honor each other. Thank you, everybody. I'm really glad you were here this evening.